name is Jen, and I am a soon-to-be self-published author, bumbling my way through the process from first draft to first publish. Thank you so much for being a part of this journey with me. Today, I want to continue the conversation I started last week, where we talked about how I engaged and found my alpha readers. So, I did mention in the video last week that I was going to put up more videos in that week. I thought I could do 2 or 3 videos a week. It is just not going to happen. So my new goal is to publish a video every Sunday. Hopefully that is enough to document my process, and we'll see how consistent that can stay. So last week I talked about how I created and sent out these cards that had the QR code, and that is the reason that I went with the company that I chose. I will link to that video if you didn't get a chance to see it. Today I want to talk about where that QR code went. So I chose to use Google Forms for gathering information. There's a lot of reasons I chose Google Forms, but ultimately I chose Google Forms because it was free. I'm already using Google Drive. I'm already using Google Docs. I'm using other tools from the Google portfolio in my process of managing the book, in the process of documenting things. I have a lot of things in Google Sheets where I'm tracking verses days, things like that. And so at the end of the day, I was already using Google, and it made a lot of sense to use Google Forms. But number one, chef's kiss reason is because Google Forms is totally free and has nearly every function that you could want from like SurveyMonkey without having to pay for it. I do know there's a free version on SurveyMonkey, but it does give you very limited functionality, and so I chose to go with Google Forms. Not saying you couldn't use one of those other tools, that's the one that I chose. Now, the form I'm going to show you is not my first version of this form. My first version of the form had way too much information, collected way too much information, and was way too complicated. So people will come to an initial page where it said, "Thank you for your support." It asked for their name and email, and then asked them whether or not they wanted to be an early reader. From there, it would direct them to a series of pages. If they said they wanted to be an alpha reader, it would take them to another page that gathered information about like what their schedule was, whether or not they wanted a print or emailed version. All of that was a lot of information, but it was also a lot of clicking and a lot of like navigating. It was complicated for me to set up, and ultimately I had multiple people tell me it was too complicated and they gave up and didn't finish the form. So I am now going to show you the new and improved version. I will point out some of the places that I made changes, but the biggest change is the fact that it is a single form. There's no navigation involved. When someone goes to the Google form, they have a single page, and at the bottom is submit, versus at the bottom saying next, 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 where they're going through all these pages of a form. So with that, I'm going to put on my blue light glasses and let us check out this form. So the first thing that I did is I wanted to say, hey, thank you for your support. That is a free banner that was just in the Google Forms. I thought it looked cute, and it's actually the one I used for all of them. So started with just saying, hey, thank you for your support. Then you'll see right now it says sign into Google to save your information. That is because I did disable, for the sake of this video, the feature that requires people to be signed in for them to be able to submit the answers. The reason I have that feature enabled is that it only allows one answer per Google account, so it helps avoid like spam and bots. If for some reason, because this link is posted online, one of those got a hold of it, they wouldn't be able to submit 7,000 forms because they wouldn't have that many Google Gmail accounts. Obviously, I have that disabled so that my email address isn't showing to you to be able to look at this form. So from there, I do request their email. This was something that I learned. The original form didn't ask for that because I thought requiring them to be signed into Gmail would mean that I would get their Gmail, and that is not the case. In my day job, I use Microsoft Forms, and when I require them to use their Microsoft account, I automatically get their Microsoft email and their name from my job. And so that is what I was expecting. That is not how it works on Google Forms, so just be aware of that. I also did not originally include name because I figured from their email I would know who they were. That is not the case either. Some people have email addresses that are first name, last name, but there are also people who have email addresses that are nothing like their name, and I had to play a little bit of stalker on Facebook to try to figure out whose name that email address went with. So I did add name in a later version of the survey. So from there, it goes into basically explaining what the alpha, beta, and ARC reader means. And this is something that really came from, I had this in the original version of the form. I had so many people say that it was helpful to really break down what is an alpha reader and what are the expectations. How can someone engage at that level, and what would I be looking for of someone who is engaging at that level? You'll notice there is nowhere under alpha reader to select an answer. That is because alpha readers already have their book, so this form has been changed for that reason as well. After that, talked about beta readers. As you can see, I kind of outlined what am I looking for in a beta reader, and also what is the estimated schedule. Obviously, I put an estimated start of April. Is that going to be the actual start date? I don't know. We kind of had a slight delay in when I got the book to alpha readers, which I will talk about in another video. And so because of that, I don't know if I'll be on that schedule, but I wanted to give people a rough idea of when and how long this commitment would be. And then I gave them 3 options. These 3 options were under all 3 of them. Now it's currently only under beta and ARC. Basically, there's yes, this is my preference. And when I would talk to people, I would remind them to just pick one as their preference. But I had multiple people say they were willing, interested, willing, and able is how I worded it. They were willing to do all of them, but their preference was alpha. Or they were willing to do all of them, but their preference was beta. And so that's why I have that differentiation. And then there's an option that says, no, this isn't the right fit for me. My first version of the form basically required them to pick alpha, beta, ARC, or I'm going to wait till the book comes out to buy it. And I just felt like that was very limiting. It didn't give them the ability to say if they were willing to do more than one. And also it kind of forced people to say they would buy the book if they weren't interested in being an early reader. And I didn't want people to feel any pressure. So here I talk about what I'm looking for from an ARC. As you know, those are advanced reader copies. They are people who read it and then write reviews. And again, same question, are you interested, willing, and able? Now, this is where the form could end, but I chose to go beyond this because I wanted this to be a form people could complete if they had any interest at all in supporting and encouraging me, not just if they wanted to be an early reader. Because what I have written is a Bible study. I have multiple people that have been praying for me through this process, and so I thought a great way to kind of start an email list so that I could notify people when the book is ready for purchase, even if they didn't want to be an early reader, was to include some additional questions. But on top of that, these are genuine needs that I have. So the first one, the kind of like easy check mark, was join the prayer team. I will be honest, only about half the people said that they wanted to do this. It totally makes sense. They all a lot of times already are following me on Facebook, so they'll also be getting updates there, but I did do this. Now, you'll see I had an opportunity for them to join it on Discord. I am like 90% sure I'm about to remove that. I have currently 2 people on Discord and it is not really being used. It's just an extra thing to manage. I feel like I had delusions of grandeur when I thought, oh, I'll just have a Discord, but it is adding headache that I will probably be removing. But there was an option, hey, do you want to be on the prayer team? Then video participant. I have written a Bible study and I do want to pre-record some of those kind of discussion style videos that are very common in this genre. And so, hey, are you interested in being a part of that? And then now for Artist Wanted, I originally had a place for them to provide the information of an artist that they thought might be a good fit. I had recommendation given to me that was like, hey, let's make sure if someone actually wants to be an artist that they're sending you, they're showing that they want it. They're not just being referred by a friend without showing any interest. I don't know if that was the right feedback or not, but that is the path I decided to take. I will be honest, I've gotten no one reaching out about artists, so I might need to be a little more aggressive in looking for that, but it's also kind of early in the game and I'm not quite ready for cover design and illustrations just yet. Then I have this space that is just an open opportunity to say whatever they want. People have left me encouragement. People have given me recommendations or advice. Honestly, mostly that has come from other authors, whereas the ones that are more friends and family have just given more like encouragement. A lot of people have just left it blank. And finally, I ended the survey with a thank you and just a reiteration of the fact that I appreciate their support. I appreciate their investment in me over the last several years, and I appreciate that they continue to support and encourage me as I am pursuing my dream of becoming a full-time author. So I will say I've had, I think, 14 people complete the form. I don't have it up right now, but I've had several people complete the form, and that is really awesome. But I will also say I've had several people not complete the form, but reach out via text, via email, and say, hey, I got confused by the form, but here's what I want to do, right? I have a couple of alpha readers actually who didn't even bother filling in the form. They just said, I want to read your book. and we had a conversation that led to them being an alpha reader or beta reader, right? So I will say also to just be aware of that. Some of them shot me a text and said, how can I support you? How can I help and encourage you, right? And so not everyone is going to complete the form in order to stay engaged, and it's kind of up to me as the author to reach out to them and understand, like, hey, did you get the card? And someone would say, yeah, I'm going to fill in that form, and then I'd be like, you can just tell me. And so there is a little bit of follow-up legwork that did go into it. I would say out of my 7 alpha readers, I think 4 of them completed the Google form, and I think 3 of them didn't, but again, don't quote me on that. So that's a little bit about how I got feedback. I hope this is helpful to you. If you're in the process of trying to figure out, obviously you're probably not writing a Bible study for writers. Whatever you are working on writing though, hopefully seeing how I got through this process and how I engaged with people is helpful to you on your own journey. I hope to be posting videos every Sunday evening, and so I will see you in the next one real soon.